All right, so my allergies are kicking my ass right now. Um, I got itchy eyes, I got runny nose. I'm sneezing like fucking every 5 seconds. It sucks really bad, and I think it has to do with the vaccine. I got the vaccine like 3 weeks ago almost now, 2.5 weeks ago, and it lowered my immune system, and then I just got hit with fucking allergies. And I used to get it a lot worse when I was younger, but the last, like, I'd say 5 years, haven't really been hit that much with allergies. But I've just been getting killed the last week and a half. Like I said, I think it's because I took that vaccine. So you're going to have to excuse me if I'm sneezing and I'm blowing my nose. I want to make a video, and I want to talk about how to cope, or how to cope sounds like such a pathetic word. How to, excuse me. I don't even think I'm going to say excuse me, because I'll be saying excuse me every 5 seconds, because I'm going to be blowing my nose and sneezing. If you can deal with it, deal with it. If not, I understand. But I want to make a video. I'm not going to call it cope, because that sounds like such a pathetic word. I'm going to call it how to deal with not measuring up. And this is a tough subject, because I think I talked about this last year, maybe, but I know I've made 1 or 2 videos about this in the past, but I want to touch on it again. Because it's really, for men, it's something that's just not talked about, you know? We treat our men like dirt in the U.S. We really do in the United States. We treat our men like dirt. And I say the U.S. because really that's the epicenter of fucking modern feminism, and, you know, this whole idea that men are the enemy, right? And we have to be, if we're not chivalrous, we're just, you know, we're either chivalrous white knights, or we're just horrific, oppressive misogynists. There's really no in between, which is unfortunate. But we are not the sought after gender. We are not the uplifted gender, and I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what feminists say. We're just not, man. They use women like to throw around this word privilege. Nah, man. Men are not privileged. We're burdened. We're not privileged, we're burdened. All the burden is on us. You know, all the burden is on us. We've got the burden of performance. We've got the burden of finances. And yes, women can work, but, you know, I would use the word privilege for women even working, right? It's a privilege that women can work, because they don't have to work, right? It's not a privilege if you have to do something. It's not a privilege if you're burdened to do something. That's not a privilege. Right? Now, it depends on how you look at it, right? You could be like, well, yes, I've got the privilege that I get to work today. Like, yes, you can look at it like that, in the sense that, oh, there's actually careers out there that I can go get and attain to. Like, that's a privilege. You could look at it like that, right? Because, you know, you could live in some shithole country, you know, to use the Donald Trump phrase, but you could live in some shithole country and you wouldn't even have a career. There might not even be a career available to you. You could live in somewhere like Somalia. Then the only thing you could do is be a pirate or a fisherman, and, like, good luck either one. You're fucking probably going to starve either way, right? So in a sense, it's a privilege to do anything. It's a privilege to be able to have a career. It's a privilege to be able to have a house, in a way, right? It's just all in how you look at it. Like, if you're not rich or you're not very successful, you could look at life as if it's just suffering, and then nothing's a privilege. It's all in how you look at it. Phraseology is the, you know, in the eye of the beholder, right? It is a privilege, though, for women to work, right? Because they don't have to. They can seriously, simply just find, and there's good dudes coming out the ass. You know, they like to act like they're not. They like to act like good men are so hard to find. Nah, man, good men are everywhere. They really are. Good men are just coming out the ass. Seriously, they're everywhere. Good men, And what I mean by good man is a guy who just has got a decent career. He works hard. He wants to take care of a woman. He wants to make her his special, you know, sweetheart. There's men like that everywhere. In fact, I would say even that's a big part of male nature, you know, and I talk bad about it on my channel, you know, where I say, well, that just makes you utility. That just makes you, you know, a means to an end. You're just a resource hub, right? I say things like that because I know what it is. I know how women are. If you don't have that resource bank, you ain't shit, right? So I don't look at it as a positive. But, you know, again, there's different ways to look at phraseology. There's different ways to look at things. And if you really just are a female and you want a good guy, I mean, it's so obvious. There's good guys everywhere. There's good guys coming out of the woodwork in the sense that, yeah, the guy's just got a career, paying a mortgage, wants a woman, wants a sweetheart. Those guys are everywhere. They might not be 10 out of 10 objective chads. Sure, they might not be 10 out of 10, you know, fucking looking like David Beckham or Brad Pitt or Channing Tatum, right? Or fucking Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Like, no, not every guy is going to be 10 out of 10 musculature, good looking. But there's a lot of guys out there who just work hard and they want a good woman to take care of, really. And even using those words is weird, but they're out there, man. Like, so when women complain, it's like, you're just complaining because you don't have your 100 out of 100, you know, that he checks off all your boxes of attractors and attractions. That's really all you're complaining about. There's guys out there. There's great guys out there, man. They're just not, they're not as amazingly hot as you want them to be. That's all. But here, okay. So with that said, I want to talk to the guys who don't measure up. And I want to talk to the guy. And there's a lot of us, man. I would say I'm one of them, you know, really. You know, if I'm being honest, sure, I've had my flings. I've had girls. I'm not just a kissless virgin incel. I've messed around. I've had girlfriends, you know, but few. I mean, I guess you could say few and far between. You know, at my age, you average it out, and it's pretty sparse. But compared to like some guys I know that I talk to online who barely even kissed a girl, like, I mean, I'm probably doing pretty decent. Well, I don't know. I guess it's all relative, but you know, compared to fucking Chatamus Maximus over there, I ain't shit. And I guarantee you, I ain't shit, because I know there's guys who are getting laid three different girls a week, spinning 3 to 5 plates a week, you know, getting pussy every night. So I am not even close to that. So, you know, it's all relative, but you know, I've had some sex. I've had consistent girlfriends that had consistent sex, and there's a lot of guys out there who haven't. You know, I've never been married. I've never really fully been in love where I loved the woman and she loved me. I've never really had that situation. I've had lost loves. I've had missed opportunities. I've had, you know, missed connections where she loved me and I didn't love her, and then I loved her and she didn't love me, and all kinds of shit like that, which again is a lot more than a lot of guys, you know, a lot of these guys out here. But I would say that, you know, I'm not doing very good, if I'm being completely honest. So it's like I can come at this from both angles. I've seen both aspects where, like, I could have had some success if I would have played it a certain way with a girl, but I was playing a different way. And then, you know, I've had opportunities where I could have had quote unquote love, but I just didn't feel like the girl was up to what I wanted, or she was below my standards in some ways. You know, she was too overweight, or she was too this or that, or whatever. So I've had my missed opportunities, but I can speak from somebody from both sides, where like I've had a little bit of success, very relative, right? And then I've had, you know, a lot of unsuccess, mostly unsuccess, right? Mostly failure. But you know, again, it's all relative. There's people out there who are freaking virgins. There's people out there who don't even mind being virgins. There's people out there who sex is not, it doesn't even come into their vernacular. It doesn't even register because they're just like, what? I don't even care. Like I got my life to live. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm finding joy in other things. It's all in how you look at it, man. I mean, I guess, you know, if you're being critical, you would look at somebody who's single, and there's, you know, say there's a single 40-year-old, like that movie, The 40-Year-Old Virgin or something, right? There's guys out there like that, man, and there's women out there like that too. And you could look at them critically, you know, in a criticizing light, and say like, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you content with just going home and, you know, watching movies to satisfy your soul, or jerking off to porn, or you know, just why aren't you in the game? You know, like you could criticize. I would criticize, you know, I probably would. But on the other hand, it's like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of people out there like that. You'd be surprised. You know, we have these internet buzzwords like incel and, you know, femcel, right? Gymcel, these weird words where, you know, we talk about like people who don't get laid, and, you know, like they're some kind of weirdos or something. And that's just a small culture on the internet. But there's a vast amount of people out there who don't give a shit about Facebook, who don't give a shit about Twitter and social media, you know, and they're out just living their life, you know, and they don't even care. They're like, fuck it. You know, like, I don't care what people think of me. Yeah, I'm a 40-year-old virgin or something like that, right? So it's all relative, man. It's all on how you look at it. But with that said, I do believe that, and the reason why I would be critical is because I do believe everyone has the desire to be desired. You know, I believe that's a human trait. I believe that's a human quality where we all want to be desired. We all want to be, you know, I wouldn't say lusted after. That's probably not the right phrase, but it's nice when somebody wants to fuck us, you know, and I've definitely been there a lot, you know, and it's nice. And then I've not been there a lot, so I know how shitty that can be, right? So I've been places where like girls just wanted to fuck me, and I fucked them, and it just feels amazing. It helps your ego. You feel confident. You feel happy as shit. I mean, there's literal, like, you know, neurotransmitters that are released. I don't know if that's the right word, neurotransmitters. There's literal chemicals in the brain, is the right word, that are released when you're in love, or when you're having sex, or when someone is attracted to you. So on the one hand, like, objectively, you know, I critique women a lot, particularly women who are thirsting for validation and thirsting for attention, thirsting for the simp attention. And in a way, you know, I get it. You know, in a way, I get where they're coming from, because it is like a drug, man. It really is. It's like a drug. Like, wow, you know, somebody wants to fucking jerk off to me. That's hot. You know, like, I get where porn, you know, women who do porn are coming from. Like, that's a big ego boost, you know, and particularly like these women, these young women who don't have a lot of confidence, because, you know, what gives you confidence? Well, when you challenge yourself to a task that is challenging, and you overcome that challenge, and you make what's called an accomplishment, right? Oh, I challenged myself to learn how to play chess and become good at chess, and now I'm pretty good at chess, and I can win some games, and it's cool because I did something that was really challenging, and now I'm good at it, and that produces confidence. Or in some people, they'd be like, why the fuck are you wasting your time with chess? Why don't you get out and make some friends, and that'll make you confident, or whatever, you know, whatever your bent is, you know, whatever your little thing is. You challenge yourself, and you have a goal in mind, and then you set that goal, and then you work towards that goal, and you make an accomplishment. And this is what confidence is, or you know, this is how confidence is produced, and it makes you happy in a sort of way. There's a lot of different things in life that make different people happy, different strokes for different folks, you know. So it's like, I get it if a girl's like, you know, she wants validation from guys who she knows she's never going to sleep with. It makes her feel powerful. You know, do I think it's ultimately right? I mean, I don't know. From my perspective as a guy, no, I don't think it's right, because I think that, you know, she's leading guys on, or it's part of her ego. And I'll talk about that in a lot of videos where I say, no, it's just part of her ego. And I ultimately, yeah, I do think that. But objectively, if I look at it from, you know, kind of that point of view, where I'm like, well, okay, it builds up her self-esteem, builds up her ego, you know, in a sort of confidence boost type of way. Yeah, I get it. You know, is it ultimately good? Does it ultimately produce anything quality? I don't know, man. I mean, you know, you look at these porn girls, you watch porn, and you're like, what are these girls really getting out of it? They're getting a confidence boost because they know guys are jerking off to them, and it turns them on. And the thing is they know that they're never going to sleep with those guys, because those guys are out of their, or they think those guys aren't even in their league, and they're right in their, you know, from their own scope. They're right from their own viewpoint, in that, yeah, if she's you know, if she's hot, and maybe she's a 9 or 8, or it depends, you know, everybody has different attraction. Like, I like kind of chunky girls with big old tits, and like, you know, I don't care if she's got a little bit of a belly, and as long as her ass is nice and she looks healthy and she got big old tits, like, and she got a sexy face, like, to me that's porn, you know. But you know, other guys might be like, oh, I don't like that belly on her, like, you know, she's fat or something. And it's like, yeah, you know, I get it, you know. So it's like, but, you know, if guys are lusting after you, if you know, objectively, yeah, you might not be a fucking runway model, right? You might not be Giselle Bundchen or whatever the fuck, where you got this no waist and you're thin as fuck, but you got this great ass, and you're hot, and you got this those girls will never look like that. But it doesn't mean a lot of guys don't want to fuck them, you know? It doesn't mean a lot of guys don't want to fuck them. So if you're, you know, objectively, if you're a female that guys lust after, you're going to think you're a 10. You know, you're going to think in your mind, you're going to think, guys want to fuck me. Like, I'm a 10. Like, you know, even though maybe like on paper, like if you look at her weight, like she's too overweight, or she's got these, you know, crooked teeth or something, but it doesn't matter, because, you know, the dick wants what the dick wants. We look at a hot woman, and we're like, shit, that's a 10, because we want to stick our dick in it. And it's like, maybe if you look at her from a certain angle, damn, she's fat. But if you lay her on her back or something, it's like, life is relative, man. There's so many different angles and ways. And it's like, you would hope that it would be the same for guys. And in some ways it is. But women don't lust after men in the same way that men lust after women, right? They really don't. Which is part of how you would have to look at this is like, what do you do if you're just not? And here's the thing, like, it's not the same. It really is not the same. Women have very high standards, and I've always said this. And here's the thing, like, I always hear people say this. I always hear people say, well, if you just have a better personality, because women are not all about looks. And I'm just like, bullshit, they're not. You know, that's such a, I don't know why people say that. It's like this, what do they call it? Kind of like an urban legend. It's just not really true. It's just like a myth, you know, when people say, well, women go for other things besides looks. Like, yeah, like, but you still need the looks. Like, you have to have a certain kind of look to you, a certain kind of charm. I was watching this Sean Connery video where he's talking about sometimes he would slap a woman, because that was kind of the classic thing, you know, like that guys used to do. If a woman was really getting out of hand, you would just slap her around a little bit, and she'd wake up and she'd fall in line. And I guess that was the thing that used to happen. I don't know. I don't know. You can watch it on YouTube. It's out there. I think Barbara Walters. It's a Barbara Walters interview where she interviews fucking Sean Connery, and he's talking about slapping women. It's hilarious, but it's kind of true. Back then, I guess they did, and it's like, women fucking loved that guy, you know. I mean, he was James Bond, you know. He's the original James Bond, and you know, he was talking about slapping women around, and it's like, he justified it by saying, you know, if, you know, she gets out of hand, I slap her around a little bit. And it's like, is that right? No, it's not fucking right. But because it was because he was so masculine, and because he was dignified, and he was, he had an air about himself. And that's what really all James Bond was a guy who was unapologetically masculine, unapologetically dignified. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on. Ugh, God, I hate these allergies. He was unapologetic about everything, and that was part of his mystique. That was part of his attraction, you know. But the thing is that he was terribly good looking, you know. And a lot of times as men, we just don't even feel good looking. We don't even know what that is, you know. And it might be that we are, but women don't tell us that. And it's part of their strategy. You know, I've said this for years, and I watched this video, I think it was on Casual Bachelor as usual, because he puts out some great content, where he was critiquing a woman who was giving some advice to men or something like that. And one of the things she said was that women don't let us know when they find us attractive. They don't. And there's a reason for that. The reason is they want to, it's a shit test. They might find you attractive, but they want to test you to see if you find yourself attractive, if you know that you're attractive. Because if you find yourself attractive and you know that you're attractive, then that means you have what's called pre-selection, which means other women want you, right? So if other women want you, it means that you've had a lot of experiences where women actually want you, which means you're pre-selected. And it's kind of this weird thing. It's just this, you know, again, so much is animalistic. So much that women do is animalistic, and it's very, very visceral, but there's a better word for it. It's very, it's just animalistic, man. Like pre-selection, you know, Google it. Like, why should she want you if other women don't want you? You know, can you do you need her? You know, you got to be able to pass your genes on. And she wants to feel like, well, he doesn't need me, and he's going to pass my genes on by somebody else. And it's just this, you know, it's fucked up, man. You know, it's like they just operate on a totally different level than we would even think. Men operate on this kind of egalitarian, kind of idealistic, almost a religious way of thinking. And I believe it's because we're made in the image of God, really. You know, we have a lot of real ideals, and women just do not fucking follow any of that shit. They live by their own set of rules. They're attracted to a guy who's successful. They're attracted to a guy who other women want, and he could be a complete cad. He can be a complete someone like Sean Connery, who just fucking openly admits and is totally unapologetic, does it on a goddamn international interview that everyone in the world is going to see, and doesn't give a flying fuck what anybody thinks, because he's already successful. He doesn't give a flying shit if anybody judges him or he loses work, because he won't lose work, because he's just a fucking player. He's that much of a badass, you know, so he can just admit to hitting women, and nobody will give a flying shit. Women will love him more for it. Oh my God. He's so strong and masculine. He'll hit me to shut me up and put me in my place. And yeah, feminists are going to be fucking blowing gaskets, but it's only because, you know, they're just fucked up. It's like, dude, women are a trip, man. When you really understand female nature, it's a trip. And I'm not saying it's a trip in a good way necessarily either. It's just, they are totally different. They're animalistic. And it's like, I'm going to make this video about, you know, why God made them that way. It's going to be one of my upcoming videos, but, you know, because it's such a fucking weird, it's a kick in the teeth, man. You know, there's two things in life that are just really real. And one of them is, holy shit, I got to work to pay bills, right? You know, that's a very real aspect of life. Like, shit, you know, I gotta get my shit together, or I'm gonna be on the street. You know, if you don't work, you don't eat, kind of thing, right? You know, and it's like, if you look at the Bible and shit, there's like two aspects to the Bible. There's law and then there's grace, right? Two aspects to the Bible, law and grace, you know, and it's like, life is kind of like that. There's two aspects to life. There's law and then there's grace. And women really, the concept of women operates under the parameters of the law, right? Law is like cut and dry. Law is like, hey, you got to pay your rent or you're going to be on the street. That's the law. Law is like, hey, if you don't put gas in your car's not going to run. That's the law, right? Grace is like when you can't do something and God comes in and helps you, or like your environment somehow just is conducive. That's grace. Like we're like, okay, I can't do something and I need help. That's grace. Grace is like giving somebody help when they can't do something. But women don't give men grace. It doesn't work that way. Women are not like, oh, you really want to have sex, but or oh, you really want to date me, but you're really just not up to my standard. Okay, well, I'll just have mercy on you and date you. Like, it just doesn't happen. That's not, women operate under the law. And the law is you need to be attractive to other women. You need to have your shit together. You need to check off all my standard boxes, or else I'm not even going to fucking breathe your way. Right? That's, you know, women operate under the law. There's no grace with women. There's no like, well, you're totally not up to my standards. I'm not even very attracted to you. I'm not even attracted to you at all. But because you really want me and you're making this effort, I'm going to go ahead and sleep with you, or I'm going to go ahead and date you. Like, no, like you don't go to a Mercedes dealership with $5,000 and say, hey, I want to buy a Mercedes. Like, they're going to laugh you off the lot. They'll call the police and have you escorted off. No, you need to show up with $100,000 to buy a Mercedes, or else you're not going to get a Mercedes. I mean, I don't know if I'm illustrating that correctly, but women do not operate like that. Like, you have to be the shit, or they're not even going to breathe your way. And it's like, there's a lot of men out there who just can't do it. We can't hack it, you know? We're just not up to the standard. And so this is why so many men are in scarcity mode, right? This is why men are in scarcity mode, because we just are not, we're not sought after. They don't care about us. And even if it's just not at all even close to being the same thing. There's a woman who's like a 6 out of 10, and there's all kinds of guys who would sleep with her, all kinds of guys who would date her. There's a man who's a 6 out of 10, and no woman would date him, or, you know, no woman would even breathe his way. And that's just the reality of life, you know? And so what do you do when you just don't add up? When you just, you know, how do you deal with that? You know, and that's something that I think we've all got to come to terms with, and we've all kind of got to cope, because it's a lot, you know, sex and validation from sex, and it feels good to be chosen, you know, it feels good to, like, you know, get some. It feels good when a woman actually gives you a chance. You know, what do you do if you can't get that? You know, how do you cope? How do you deal? You know, and I would just say it's a suffering, man. It really is. But I know there's people who are able to deal with it better than others, you know, and I think and there's people who really can't deal with it at all. And I guess these guys are the, you know, quintessential definition of quote unquote incels, because, you know, the incel guys, if, you know, it depends on where you're at. It depends on what kind of community you're in, you know, social media community, really. But, you know, if you touch the right communities online, and I'm not going to tell you where I go, but you can find them, you know, you'll kind of get a better feeling of you know, how real incels really operate. And you know, Reddit a little bit, but that's not even a good representative, because those guys are weirdos for even incel standards. But, you know, I mean, I would say, like, my definition of an incel is just a guy who can't get laid, and he's kind of sad about it. You know, that's about it. Like, he's just not very attractive, not getting laid, and he's just down about it, you know? He's not taking it to the point where he's fucking online raging about female nature, online raging about how women don't choose him like Elliot Rodger and crazy shit like that. Like, I don't think that's your average incel. Like, I think that's a guy who maybe is an incel, but he's also got these sociopathic tendencies, which there are guys out there like that, which is sad, you know, but no, I think the average kind of incel case is really just the guy who can't get laid, he's struggling, having a hard time, but really it's more like he just has never been laid. Like, he just, because a lot of times incels, it just becomes they're just not desirable to the point where they never were desirable, to the point where they never really even did get lucky, even a few times. I mean, because like the average guy gets lucky a couple times in his life. Like, your whole life you're trying to get laid. Like, you're going to get lucky, 5 times, like, by the time you're 30. Like, it's going to happen if you just keep trying. But like, if you really think about the grand scheme, like 5 times, if you're trying really hard and you're 30, by the time you're 30, that sucks. I mean, that's shitty, you know, and people don't talk about how shitty that is. People are like, well, you know, at least you got laid 5 times. Like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's better than nothing, but it's still shitty, because you know damn well Chadamus Maximus, 10 out of 10 Channing Tatum, is getting 5 women a month, like, or maybe even 5 women a week, depending on how hard he works. You know, he's just going on Tinder and cleaning up, and he didn't do anything. Like, he just was born. Like, he just is good looking. And, you know, again, I always hear people say, like, you know, if you just have a better attitude, women will like, and it's just like, fuck off. Like, fuck out of here. You do not know women, female nature at all, dude. They have high as shit standards. You know, they really do. I'm out here recording this and someone's honking their horn, but yeah, man, it's and this is the thing, is like, people just don't care. People really have no sympathy for guys who can't hack it, who can't get laid. No sympathy for guys who really are really struggling. And again, like, you got to understand that a lot of it is really just your looks, your objective looks. Women are fucking shallow. I don't care. Like, here's the thing. Yes, you can get lucky. Yes, if you really apply yourself and you really work on your personality, you learn how to joke, you learn some canned routines, you learn some jokes, and you memorize some shit, and you tell her jokes, and you make her laugh, she might throw a little pussy your way. Believe it, and that can happen. But it's not going to happen regularly, and it's going to happen, like, this is why they call it getting lucky. Because the average guy does not score regularly. That's why they call it getting lucky. The average guy has to, quote unquote, get lucky in order to get laid, right? And a guy like Channing Tatum or fucking Brad Pitt, all he's got to do is show up, dude. All he's got to do is show up to the party. And this is why if there's a guy who's good looking and shit, and he's bragging, like, yeah, I got laid, and like trying to amog other